Hello, children of the popcorn. It's me, Mr. Popcorn. And who else do I have with me today?
I'm Scream Queen. Hello. Coming to you from a room. So that's all I got.
And it's me here, Frankenstein's monster. I mean, the Baron. That's all I could think of at short notice. Yes, I'm an improviser. Hello, everyone. Happy day.
Something's in the air, I think.
Yeah, it's just hot.
Yeah.
And it's
We're all delirious.
It's hot. It's far too early, but it's fine.
Yes, folks, we're recording during the day for one.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know if I like it, but it's fine. It's mid-afternoon where this movie's set. It would be 3:45 in the afternoon. It's 3 hours ahead. Yes, it's the first place to see the sun in the world. So on the turn of the millennia, New Zealand was the first. Hawke's Bay, I think, is the actual place. Don't quote me on that. Yeah, big time director called Peter Jackson created Once Upon a Time, a little film about a horrible true crime case in my hometown, the city of Christchurch in the South Island of New Zealand. Yes, we are covering Heavenly Creatures. Have you guys seen this before?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, Sarah, sorry, Scream Queen, no governments. Have you heard of it before? Had you heard of it?
Yes, I had.
Okay.
On the queer horror grapevine. It's like in that world.
Sure.
And I love Melanie Lynskey, so
She's really good in
she's
2.5 Men. I like her in 2.5 Men as the psychopathic stalker of Charlie Sheen. So,
not my favorite role of hers, but it is one of them.
Young'uns, what's the name, Sarah? Her character in Yellow Jackets, or Baron, if you remember?
Shauna.
Yeah, that's her from Yellow Jackets, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
This is her first movie role. Once Upon a Time in Christchurch, New Zealand. Melanie Lynskey there, Scream Queen, you'll appreciate this. Chris Girdler, shout out, one of my university friends, teenage friends from back in the day. He made a few films once upon a time, and he had her in her short before she made it big. Yes, in Christchurch, New Zealand. Yes, I didn't get to meet her. I wasn't at the shoot. I was busy, but apparently lovely. Yeah.
I had a good friend serve her at a Krispy Kreme a couple years ago with her husband. So that's pretty cool, I guess.
Yeah. No, I like Melanie Lynskey, and I also like her co-star in this film a lot as well. This wasn't her first role whatsoever. She had been acting since she was a child, and that is, of course, Kate Winslet as Juliet Hume. This is the Hume and Parker murder. Have you guys heard of the murder case before?
No, not until I saw the movie.
I actually didn't know what was. I mean, I knew what was going to happen, but I didn't know exactly what I was in for going into it.
Yeah. I'd heard of it, of course. I didn't know how particular the details were to Christchurch until I saw the movie. Yeah, because I saw the movie, and the Hume home is the dean's house of Ireland University. Been in there many times. Yeah, the high school where they first meet, that's my old high school. I recognize the classes. I've sat in those seats and looked out those windows. I've played in those quads when they're outside, for a break from school, all of that. And as I've mentioned before, I have traversed, got high, drunk, hung out, made out, all the teenage things, the spot where the murder took place. Yeah. It was a common it's a common teenage / family haunt of Christchurch, New Zealand. Yeah. So this film was wildly nostalgic. Watching it again 20 years later, because when I first watched this, it was very much, there's Hagley. Yep, there's Ireland, there's the uni, there's blah, 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 just playing the recognizing game. Now it's going back to a place I haven't been for 15 years. And this movie was shot in 1994. Yeah, okay. And then I was, 16, 17. Okay. So, basically at high school going, there's a new movie. I didn't get into the movies. I was busy doing other things. I wasn't interested being an extra or anything like that. Long ramble short, it was very fascinating going back to see it again and having a view of 1950s Christchurch and 1950s New Zealand, the mores and values. Yeah, that was very interesting looking back. Yeah, I'm very interested in what yourself, Baron, of course, but also Scream Queen in particular with this movie as well. Because, I didn't realize this, it's kind of problematically structured. And there's certain things that happen in this movie that are left on the wayside and never mentioned again. And I'm going, but we'll get into that. that. I wasn't blown away by it as much as I was when I first saw this in the early 2000s. Yeah. Not that I disliked it on this viewing, but it certainly doesn't hold up as much as I was expecting. And then there's certain points I want to talk about. What the hell were you thinking with this? Yeah. But also saying there's still some really wonderful elements that still do hold up, particularly the performances. But I'll get into that as we go into it. Yeah. What did you guys think?
I just watched this for context. Just 10 minutes ago, I was watching the end of the film. But I thought it was good. I had very high expectations going into it, just from what I'd heard from the cast. And I really loved it going into it. But there is a point in which my notes took quite a sharp turn, if you will. I did find myself, this is just a general note, wishing the movie would end a little bit. I thought it was very well done, but it felt like a drag for me generally, even though I loved what it was doing. I think the movie could have been an hour shorter.
An hour?
Yeah, so that's 48 minutes long.
Wow, like an anime.
Just for me. Look, I know that sounds very harsh. I did like it. I'll get into it, but that's just generally my first impression. I'm it lost me halfway through.
Okay.
Or halfway, I mean 50 minutes into the movie.
Okay.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, interesting. Cool. Baron?
Just a question to the Scream Queen. Did the ending bring you back, or were you out at the end?
No, the ending did bring me back. The last 20 minutes of the film brought me back. I just if I could get my hand if I could get in the editing room and I could just start of the film, end of the film, just take a chunk out of it.
Act 2?
Yes.
Yeah, so the Act 2 meandering trap. I would
happily cut the middle of that film out and I would have enjoyed it, I think.
So I'm curious, there's two versions of this. There's a shorter version and there's a longer version. So the longer version I think is 103 minutes. Did we all watch the long version with the 2 additional scenes, or did we watch the shortened version?
I watched the 2-hour version.
Long,
yeah. So I think that the shorter version, I watched the long version as well, but I think the shorter version might address that second act drag that took you out of the film.
There you go.
Okay.
Basically, they excised the subplot about the mother cheating with her patients.
Okay.
Okay, we'll get into that if that was needed or not. Yeah.
All right. So my initial impressions. I watched this when it first came out at the cinema. I think I even saw this. Oh, I could be wrong. I think I may have seen this in a double feature with the piano. I think they did a New Zealand.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
New Zealand Day. Let me just double check because I'm sure it was 2 New Zealand films, and I'm pretty sure it was the piano. If it wasn't the piano, then it was
Once for Warriors. They are the big 3. Those films are the big 3.
No, it was the piano. So they played this when it first came out, and it was the piano as the second film because it had come out the year before, I believe. I think it was 93.
That's a long day.
Yeah. But I mean, that was back. That was back in the days when the cinemas would do that sort of thing. They do 2 movies or 3 movies together, or they do. Police Academy 3 has just come out. We're going to play Police Academy 1, Police Academy 2, Police Academy 3, so you can see all 3, or whatever your sequel of choice is.
Yeah, they still do that now. I mean, June 2 came out. They had a double feature with the first one at a lot of places.
It's not really a thing that you do now. It used to be a social thing where you go, I'm going to go to that, and there's a break between the first movie and the second movie. We're going to go
marathons. Here doesn't do movie marathons, unfortunately.
Yeah.
They do them at the drive-in.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't want to go to the drive-in.
Have you been to a drive-in? It's so overrated.
It's just uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Oh, you're in your own car. It's great.
Yeah. Okay. The times I've done it, I've been in other people's cars with children, and I've had to sit outside with a deck chair.
Yeah, when you have to sit outside, sit in the back. No.
Yeah, I'm just stuck outside. Sorry, up to you, Ben.
I was going to say, back in the day at Harvey Bay, we had friends that lived right near the drive-in, and you could actually see the screen from their veranda. And the drive-in instituted a thing where they didn't have the hook-on speakers anymore. They had an AM radio station that would transmit, so you could just pick it up on your radio in your car. So we'd sit up on their veranda with binoculars and the AM radio on, and we just watched the movies from the veranda.
Well, that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I'd read that.
Yeah. And the premium optimum setup, drive-through would be amazing. Yeah, but you've got to get it right. You've got to have the right.
I completely agree.
Yeah. Not dissing it, because drive-in's a huge history of independent cinema, of course. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Did I say whether I enjoyed this or not?
No.
Did you?
No, not really.
No, look, I enjoyed it fine. I don't know that it's strictly speaking horror.
Yeah, that's another thing. That's on me. Yeah.
No. It has horrific elements, and the fact that it's based on a real-life crime really does lend that. And it was good to see it again as an adult.
Yeah.
To get a better understanding of where Peter Jackson's come from.
Yeah, that's true. That's actually true. This is where he started to make his drama bones, pun intended, outside of the sense of humor, which is seen in the kinetic comedy splatter gore. Definitely, this still has that to a degree.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But this is where he got his drama bones, which allowed him to eventually create Lord of the Rings, because The Lovely Bones is after this, pre-Lord of the Rings as well, their Scream Queen.
That's Peter Jackson?
That's Peter Jackson, which is a development on this, I think, taking the bones of this and creating something. I will need to rewatch it, but I've got a feeling that one's going to stand up better.
I love that film. Yeah. Like, it's awful and horrible, but I was very macabre child.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
Yeah, and Baron, he did Lord of the Rings after Lovely Bones, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Really?
Yeah, and then King Kong, and then I lost track. I do have his thing up here, though. So, yes.
Overall, and Lovely Bones was even before The Adventures of Tintin and West of Memphis.
Oh, yeah, those, of course, yeah. Tintin, I completely forgot about Tintin.
Oh, hang on. Sorry. No, he did it, but Lovely Bones is between Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, from memory.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like, I thought it came out pretty late because I was still, I was 10 or something.
So it's Frighteners, Lord of the Rings, King Kong, District 9, Lovely Bones, Tintin, Hobbit.
District 9 was a producer. He was a producer on that one, just to specify, because that had its whole saga of drama trying to get that into being as well. Mortal Engines, that's right. 2018,
wow.
Very big sci-fi, shall we say. And then The Lord of the Rings, The War of Rohirrim. Is that the TV show?
War of the Rohirrim. No, it's an animated feature.
Thank you. Okay. Have you seen it?
It hasn't come out yet. It comes out in about 2 weeks.
Oh, really?
3 weeks.
Oh,
okay. Interesting. There you go. And then he started with Bad Taste, Meet the Feebles, Brain Dead. That's the trilogy of splatter gore horror comedy. They're incredibly classic and iconic now.
Yeah.
Jack Brown Genius. What is that? Do you know, Baron?
No idea.
He's writer and producer on that one.
Jack Brown.
Yeah, but do we like Peter Jackson?
1,000 years ago in England, the crazy monk Elmo wears a pair of wings and tries to fly them from a high tower. He dies and his soul is doomed to the eternity in hell for committing suicide. In the present day in New Zealand, Elmo has the last chance to prove that men can fly and save his soul. His spirit enters the brain of a very intelligent inventor, Jack Brown.
I've never heard of this one.
Yeah, so I've not seen this one.
Never heard of it. Never heard of it. There was another documentary he did called Forgotten Silver as well, where Sam Neill hosted, and it was a mockumentary or a fake documentary. Fakecumentary, yes. That was quite entertaining. But Baron, do you like Peter Jackson overall in 2024?
Yeah, I do. I've yet to see something from his immediate vicinity that hasn't got some redeeming qualities to it. I don't think I've ever seen anything that I went, oh, well, that was just a big pile of poo.
Screen Queen?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen all of his films by any means, but what I have seen, I do think the direction of this film is very well done. Despite what I didn't like about it, I think that was probably one of the strongest elements, personally. I thought it was very beautifully done. So I would say I'm a fan. I like Lovely Bones. The Lord of the Rings films are good. So I wouldn't say I'm their biggest fan, but I have seen them and they're good. So
okay, interesting. That's cool. Thank you, because it's interesting in getting two generational perspectives on Peter Jackson as well. Because I know that Lord of the Rings are very iconic now. If it's fair to say, for your generation, they're Screen Queen.
Yes,
they seem to be held up.
Yeah, they do. People watch them. Other people.
Very treasured. Certainly, Lord of the Rings was interesting for myself and Baron because we had been waiting for a very long time for these films to come into fruition. yeah? There was an animated feature back in the day, which was basically, is this correct, Baron? Kind of like Act 1, a touch of Act 2, then straight to the end of Act 3.
Well, yeah, kind of. They really messed with the timeline in it. It wasn't the complete story.
Yeah, it wasn't the complete story. The animation was cool, but it wasn't the complete story. But we got the complete story in 2001. I've seen them. I thought they were very good. Yeah, and the rest, of course, when they came out. I don't think they hold up. That's just me personally. I've gone back and watched them, and they're just not for me anymore. Heavenly Creatures, Lovely Bones, absolutely. Well, we'll get into whether or not I think Heavenly Creatures completely holds up. I want to get back into Bad Taste, Meet the Feebles, and Brain Dead on the pod for our Kiwi horror. I think they have to be done, absolutely.
Oh,
King Kong, I did not like at all. Yeah.
It was very commercial.
Yeah, I thought it was real meh.
Very commercial.
Yeah, Tintin's just not for me. The Hobbit, I couldn't do it. Mortal Engines.
Out of curiosity, there, Mr. Popcorn, I take it then you were an Asterix kid?
Yeah. Yeah, you were one or the other, yeah. It was like the Cure or the Smiths back then. Asterix or Tintin.
I liked both. I think I preferred Asterix because it was more cartoony. But where do you fall on Where the Wind Blows?
Oh, that's amazing. To this day, that is beautiful, heartbreaking, and doing it recently because I've done threads before on a podcast. Yeah, so of course I looked at those for reference material. And to this day, this was a couple of years ago, it still broke my heart. Absolutely. Yeah.
So for everyone out there that's not aware, and possibly for Scream Queen who may not have seen it, they were generally in school library, and they were like a large format graphic novel. So obviously you've got your Asterix and Tintin, which are the kind of comic-y ones, but Where the Wind Blows was a graphic novel basically about the end of the world and like nuclear war in particular.
Oh, you've mentioned this before on the pod, I believe, as like one of the saddest, like the things that scared you most that wasn't horror.
Brought it up.
Yeah.
They haven't made a film of it or an animation of it. They really should. So shout outs to Raymond Briggs who did that. Raymond Briggs also did a couple of like sort of more comic-y ones as well, like a bit lighter, but this was just horrific.
Yeah, Bogeyman. I had Bogeyman the book as a kid as
Fungus the Bogeyman, which they made it a series of.
Oh, did they really? Yeah, okay.
There's with Timothy Spall plays Fungus the Bogeyman.
Yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned that because when that was written, they were still telling kids to get under the desk in case of a nuclear war. And they were certainly saying that to Parker and Hume in 1950s, because that's when this was set, to get under the desk. And they were telling me to do that in the 1980s in New Zealand. Yes. New Zealand is at the very edge of the world, the very bottom of the southern hemisphere. Next stop is Antarctica. Yeah. There's a little island called Stewart Island along the way at the very bottom. That's our Tasmania. Don't worry about that. There's a bunch of birds on there. That's about it. And then there is Antarctica. Yeah. This is the last big city, extended country town like Brisbane, if you will, before the end of civilization. This is where this movie is set in the 1950s. I say that because I think Peter Jackson was trying to posit the mores and values and how these kids were viewed by the adults and by society at large, and how they viewed society and the adults at large, these two kids, Parker and Hugh. Yeah. So let's get into it, whether or not this actually captures 1950s New Zealand, I think, because this is a true crime case, not really a horror movie, say what we usually tackle. Scream Queen, take it away. I'll shut up.
I'd take it away on...
Yeah, what info do you have for us? This is your movie. No, this is mine. What am I doing? I'll cut that out.
I was like, no offense.
Where did that come from? Scream Queen, go. Sarah, do my work.
I was like, I don't know anything about 1950s New Zealand. I'm sorry.
Okay, 1950s New Zealand. Neither do I. Surprise, surprise.
Do we need to talk about 1950s?
A little bit, because this is where this is set, and this is why these girls are treated the way they are. I think that's what the director's trying to say. But I will lead that. My apologies. All right. Okay, so it's written by Fran Walsh and Peter Jackson. Fran Walsh is basically Peter Jackson's right-hand woman there, Baron. Am I correct with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Helped with all of basically, second in command with all the Lord of the Rings movies. They were there. She was there at the Oscars when, it was the landslide win for the Lord of the Rings movie. She was there thanking people, getting the awards with Peter Jackson. So it really wouldn't have happened without her as well. Okay. Alan Bollinger shot this. ALUN. Here's This is one of the few times ever in this pod I'll be actually able to give direct cases, from my own experience. I knew this guy, rest in peace. No, my apologies. His son, I knew his son. I was friends with his son. His son committed suicide. Rest in peace, Conrad, 11, 12-year-old, I was friends with his son, and that's when I first heard about what a goddamn cinematographer was, because he showed me the camera and explained what he does, and I went, that's really, really cool. As part of me getting into movies was meeting this guy through my friend, Conrad. He's a very famous cinematographer of New Zealand. He's known as one of the best, absolutely. So it made sense that he chose this. Peter chose him, certainly when we go into the fourth world, to capture that. Okay, the cast. One sec. You got Kate Winslet as Juliet Hume, Melanie Lynskey as Pauline Parker. Okay, so we've talked a bit about Melanie. Do we like Kate Winslet?
Yes.
Yeah. I think she's a legend, personally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we're not just limiting it to this movie.
Sorry?
So, were you saying, do we like Kate Winslet in this or Kate Winslet in general?
Yeah, no, sorry, in general.
Okay. Yeah, no, I like her fine.
Yeah. No. I think she's I think she's exceptionally good. All right, so we have Sarah Peace as Honora Parker. Honora, thank you. Diane Kent as Hilda Hume. Olive Marison as Dr. Henry Hume. Simon O'Connor as Herbert Reaper. Jed Brophy as John. Peter Elliott as Bill Perry. Peter Elliott's a little bit of a New Zealand star. He's been in a few New Zealand movies. He was on Shortland Street for quite a while. That's our home and away in New Zealand there, Aussies. Yeah. So he was a fairly big name. He's certainly recognisable. Gilbert Goldie as Dr. Bennett. Elizabeth Moody as Miss Walker. Okay.
Jed, our listeners to the pod children of the pod will recognise Jed Brophy's name from Killer Sofa. He was Inspector Grape.
Okay.
In that. He's also in all the Lord of the Rings films.
Okay.
So he plays the lodger in this.
Yeah. Okay. Now it's based on the notorious Parker-Hulme murder case. It's just one of New Zealand's biggest, certainly Christchurch's biggest true crime case. Everyone knew what it was. And when Peter came along and announced that he was going to make it was like, really? You're going to make that? Yeah. This guy, the brain dead or dead alive guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now it's examining the relationship between the two teenage girls, Parker and Hugh. Now, should we tell the children to go to bed?
Yeah, I think we're going to start spoiling it, so they should probably go and watch.
Yeah, because I'm about to ask about their relationship. This whole movie is about their relationship, their friendship, their obsession. It leads to an obsession with each other, certainly seen through the adult's eyes in this movie. Yeah. Now, after this movie, I termed the coin for myself the Heavenly Creatures Syndrome. When two in particular, I'm just going to say this growing up as a dumb male, I use the Heavenly Creatures Syndrome when two female friends become friends and there's that bond. When you get around it, there is electricity in the goddamn air, And these two girls, in my opinion, I think they encapsulate that very well. Scream Queen, what do you think? What did you think of their relationship and this idea of the heavenly creatures?
Yeah, I guess I don't I found their relationship very interesting, and I think it's very true to I feel like teenage girls have, I mean, not to this extent, but there is, this sort of history of this sort of obsessive teenage relationship being portrayed in different capacities. And this is definitely one of the, I guess, deepest looks into that relationship that I've seen on screen. And I really loved the way that their relationship was handled in this film. I thought it was handled very delicately and in a very nuanced way. Whether it's true to their real relationship at all, obviously there was an obsessive nature to it. I don't know if they were actually in love with each other in real life necessarily, but I think the film points to they were. That's at least Peter Jackson's reading of it, which I found very interesting and I found very, sensitively done, I think.
Okay, because we've got Peter and Fran writing this, so it's a male and female perspective on this one. Yeah, but thank you. Baron?
My biggest query throughout is how closely they got the information that indicated the relationship. And then at the end, obviously, the police get the diaries. So it's possible that they were provided that information, which is where they got that verisimilitude between the two characters.
Nice word. Yes, absolutely. And the diary narration is word for word, verbatim in this movie as well. That's said at the start. That's credited at the start. Yes. So that is a good point. Yes. These murders did actually happen. This murder did actually happen, and the diary cases aren't there. But I do get you, Scream Queen. A lot of confabulation can go on to create this dark fantasy, because this movie is also a dark fantasy as well. Yes.
So I have to call out the makeup department that did the clay suits.
Sure.
That was really nicely done. The mouth with the layer of the grey latex in it, so you couldn't see teeth and tongue inside the mouth, and it was just clay. Like Sir Richard Taylor did an incredible job on and his team did an incredible job on this film.
Was that via Weta Digital?
In the credits, it's credited as W.E. W.E.T.A. So maybe one of the first iterations of what Weta became.
Okay, if you don't know Weta, their children, Lord of the Rings from there. Yes, Avatar. Your Avatar movies are made via Weta, through Weta. Peter Jackson is not the boss on the floor anymore. He still owns it, and he still makes sure it's kept to a certain quality level. Is that fair to say, Baron?
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd
having been there recently, yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay, cool. Legendary. And one thing with Peter Jackson, never ever say a bad word about Wellington and or New Zealand. You're in for a bad time. So he still has that, even though he's Mr. Hollywood nowadays. Yeah. Their relationship, from a spectatorial point of view, certainly when you were younger, I thought it was fantastic. Absolutely. I thought the two actors did a very good blood brothers type of dynamic. She had a blood brothers dynamic. If you know that show, that musical / play, their children, you've got Mickey from the Sticks and Eddie, who is basically the Juliet Hume, the bourgeoisie kid. I did that play way back. So this is another thing that I related to, through this movie. And they do share a great dynamic of that, because even though they come from two opposite ends of the social scale, there's still the parent thing. Yeah. The parents aren't abusive. The parents just don't get their kids. Yeah, if that's fair to say. And the two girls find an actual real connection and an understanding with each other, which the rest of the adult world does not give them whatsoever. Whether or not that means it's justified what they do, we'll get to that. You can tell from my tone what I actually think. Yeah. Okay. Is that a decent enough setup? Yeah. Okay.
But cool. Children, go and watch the movie and come back, because we are going to spoil it. And there is some stuff in this that you really don't want to be spoiled on. Like it's nice to discover it.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. All right. So shall we go, if we are ready, to 1952 Christchurch? Now, just going off Wiki here, so anything that it misses out, jump in. Yeah. All right. Now we're in Christchurch, 1952. All right. Now it just says here, an affluent 13-year-old English girl transfers to a new school and befriends Pauline Parker, 14-year-old girl from a working class family. But we get kind of newsreel footage of Christchurch from back in the day. Yeah.
Yes.
Of 1952. Yeah. For this. I liked it. Yeah. It's pretty much Christchurch of 1994, with set dressing and some very basic matte paintings and CGI to make it look like 1952. Pretty much. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah. It's if you go there now, if you've ever been there now past 2010, 2011, that big church isn't there. A lot of what you see in this movie no longer exists, because there was giant earthquakes in 2010, 2011, which flattened the town. I don't know what the town looks like. I'm going to find out soon. What Christchurch looks like, but it doesn't look like this movie anymore. The gardens do, and the college, which is called the Arts Centre, which is used as the Arts Centre nowadays. The university that you see in this movie, the gardens and the rector's house, the university grounds, they're the same. The CBD is not. Yeah, just for a setup there. And before then, we meet Pauline Parker, because she jumps out of her, what do they call them? Sleep out. You call them granny flats in this country, what Pauline sleeps in Yeah, that little giant doll's house. That is called a sleep out. Yeah, basically a small, comfortably furbished type shed in the backyard, which will have enough electricity to run your light. They weren't using their laptops or smartphones back then. Their light to read their books by at night, and do their homework, whatever. She jumps over the fence and meets the rest of her school friends going to school. Christchurch is that small, you can do that. Yeah, that's very New Zealand, very Christchurch. Then she gets to school. Pauline Parker's very shy, very retiring. You know what I mean? She keeps her head down a lot. She covers her face with her hair. Juliet Hume is not. And we see that as soon as she walks in. She's the daughter of the dean, the two bitchy mistresses. Yeah, they are very impressed that she's come in, and she starts correcting the French teacher straight away as soon as she sits down. Very Hermione Granger. What did you guys think?
Yeah.
My initial thought was, God, she's annoying. If she walked into my class, I would be very like, not this girl coming in here. I was like, but she's very, like, it's very true to, like, it comes across very teenage girl. Like, she's playing the part very well. I assume she was in her 20s when she did this. She's a bit older than Melanie Lynskey, if I'm not mistaken.
14 and 18 are the age of the actors in this movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I thought Melanie Lynskey was 17 when she did it, but...
She was. I could be mistaken there. That's just the info I had, yes.
Okay.
They're both under 80, somewhere between 14
God.
and 18. Yeah.
Well, they do seem very young, but she's like playing the like 14-year-old of it very well because she's annoying. I was just going to say, I also want to talk about the very opening after the Christchurch montage. They have the part where they're running up the trail covered in blood, screaming.
Yeah.
And it's intercut with the footage of them like all happy on the boat. I found that a very good like cold open, I suppose, to this. I feel like that like really got me excited for what the movie was going to be, because like the screaming was like honestly very like affecting. It was just like terror. And I thought that's a very interesting way to introduce these characters after we've just seen this like very wholesome montage of this, beautiful city in
Mercy, back in 1952. Christchurch, New Zealand. Yeah.
So I thought that was very good to open with.
Yeah, it's a good bookmark device as well. Yeah. It's used as a very cool bookmark device. Beginning and ending of the film, great. Absolutely. Yeah. Not to belittle the rest of it, but the bookmark device is really good. What did you think, Baron?
I thought they were obviously, to my adult eye, different ages, which made it feel a bit weird. I don't think I picked it up on my initial watching when it first came out, but I was a callow youth at the time and was more interested in seeing whether Kate Winslet would get naked in the film, because she was obviously the one there to draw the male gaze out of the two.
Yeah.
Having said that, as an adult, I find myself much more attracted to Melanie Lynskey than Kate Winslet. But I think they played the relationship really well. They were well matched. The screen buzzed with the energy that came off that relationship. I really enjoyed the performances.
Absolutely. Hume, did she remind you a little bit of Rick Mayall?
Oh,
yeah, she had this real. Yes, well, that's fantastic. Well, that's lovely, darling. And she, the real kinetic, like the laughing, the hysterical cackling, and she had just that wide open, and she speaks in kind of a British voice. Rick Mayall from The Young Ones, there, Scream Queen. Yeah,
her performance was external, which Rick Mayall always did an external performance.
Yeah. It just reminded me a little bit of this viewing. Yeah, so it's when she's sitting down to dinner, meeting the Parkers for the first time, and then it's cut straight to her face. Well, really, actually, bye. Yeah, it just made me laugh out loud. I cackled at that point. Yes,
she's overperforming, I think, in that scene.
She's very precocious. I feel like I really like the overplaying because I feel like it does feel very young. Like it sort of makes everything a little bit more horrific because they are such like sort of, they keep saying like spirited young girls. They are there's just like a strangeness over this whole film, and they like really play into that, and they really stand out in this world and in their homes. And I think it makes everything a little bit more awful in a successful way, you know. So I found their performances really strong.
No, I agree with that. So we have met Juliet Hume, and she befriends Pauline Parker because Pauline really likes her painting. She thinks it's fantastic. Yes. And Juliet gets that recognition as well because Juliet's very lonely as well. Yeah. She's loud, she's precocious, but she's also very lonely, and she's looking for someone to acknowledge her as is Pauline as well. They acknowledge each other. So as here, Pauline is the 14-year-old working class girl. Now they're bonding over a shared history of severe childhood disease and isolating hospitalizations. Yes, this is quite a big theme in this movie. Yeah, they both feel very isolated and neglected in their own ways through their own experiences. Yeah, in this movie, that's part of their bond, why they bond together. Juliet has suffered from tuberculosis in the past, which was around quite a bit back in the day. And Pauline Parker. Now, what did she have with her leg? How exactly was that described? It had to be drained for over 2 years, yes?
Yeah.
And she was in a wheelchair. She was unable to walk. She was in a wheelchair when she was younger.
And she was in hospital a lot. I don't remember what they actually called it. But it was
sort of way.
It's one of those weird lymphatic diseases or something, I think.
There were lymphatic was the term that was used. Yes, thank you. Okay. Now, unlike the peaceful intellectual life Juliet shares with her family, I don't know if intellectual's the right word, but it's reserved. It's a reserved life. It's a proper life. Pauline's relationship with her mother, how do you say the name again, please, Baron?
Honora,
thank you, is hostile, and the two fight constantly. I don't know if it's really fighting. It's kind of typical daughter-mother stuff, really. Scream Queen, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I don't think her mother, you know, they're very conservative in a way. Like, she just wants her to do well so she can have like a better life. Traditional. Traditional.
Yeah.
Like, she just wants her to like do well and succeed, and she's, I guess, nags a bit is in her words, Pauline's words. But yeah, nothing crazy. Like, they seem to have quite a good relationship at the beginning of the film. Like, you have that scene where, you know, she comes home and she's putting her record on of, you know, the Mario Lanza record and listening to it, and her father's, you know, singing with the fish, and it seems all very joyful. It does, like, that's sort of where we meet the family. It's like they get along quite well despite, you know, not being like the most well-off family. They are happy, and she has her siblings and yada yada. So yeah, it's all quite normal, I suppose.
Yeah, it's regular working class life. Yeah, you know, there's stress, there's nagging, but it's all from love. It's all done with love, absolutely. And the mum wants Pauline to make something from her life because she feels that she had wasted time stuck in hospital. Yeah, that's where the nagging comes from. Absolutely. I think the Hume household's far colder. Far colder.
Yeah.
Baron, what do you think of the Humes?
I think they're dreadfully unhappy. I think they're constantly running away from something. They get to somewhere and then it doesn't quite meet their requirements, and then they run away.
They've got the money to do so.
Yeah, and you'll often find with that sort of family that they'll run back to somewhere in particular. I had friends who were army families, and they would, because they shifted around a lot, once they were out of the army, they kept going back to the places they'd been to when they were in the army.
Okay. That's interesting. Yeah.
So I think they're unhappy. And that can be seen from the mother's dalliances outside the marriage, the father throwing himself into his work, the daughter with her rich fantasy life.
Yes.
Out of the two households, I'd prefer to be in Pauline's rather than Juliet's, I think.
Oh, absolutely. I'd rather be with Dad singing and singing with the fish. Absolutely. Far more fun. Yeah, you get the sense of neglect at the Hume household. Absolutely. The dad especially, you say burying himself in work is also just burying himself in the newspaper. And I've seen that before in my own home. One adult doesn't want to be there and just hides their face in a book. Yeah. It was the pre-smartphone escape, basically, back in the day. It was a newspaper. You complain about people on trains and whatnot, just, looking at phones. They did the same with the newspaper, covering their face for the whole ride, waiting for the train. They'd all be standing there with newspapers. Yeah. Anyway, just an aside. Yeah, so that's basically the setup of the two houses there. One is the Dean of the University, yes, and that is the Hume household of Ireland University. Okay. Yes, those are the hospitalizations. And they also befriend each other over Mario Lanza. I had never heard of Mario Lanza before this. I'm not that old. I had no idea who it was. I'm also not a fan of crooning Italians. Anyone heard of Lanza before this, Baron?
I think we had an album at home of his song.
Okay.
When I was a kid.
Yeah. Frank Sinatra, basically along the same lines. Yeah. But just actually Italian, not American Italian, I guess. Yeah. Okay. But I like the okay. So Pauline spends most of her time at the Humes household where she feels accepted, but the two daughters visit each other's families, yes, and get to know each other. Yeah. Okay. Now, this is where they begin to build their fantasy world, to the fourth world, if you will. Yeah. Okay. Together, Juliet and Pauline paint, write stories, make figurines, and eventually create a fantasy kingdom called Barovnia. Baron, you've touched on that you really liked how this was physically shown on the screen. Yes. Yeah. Screenplay, what did you think of all of this? Just general impressions of Barovnia.
I thought it was good. I thought, now knowing that he directed Lovely Bones, I feel like it felt very true to his direction style. It's sort of what I was expecting. And I thought it was very fun. It added to the sort of delusion and escapism that these girls are sort of falling into. And I sort of it was unnerving in a way because I was like, well, what's happening in the real world when they're having these fantasies? What are they doing? Because I think at this point I was just waiting for something sinister to happen, and it took a long time. But I did like the clay and the building these figurines, and the fact that that was something that Juliet did, that Pauline sort of adopted, and they had this story and they would talk to each other as the characters. I found that really interesting. Yeah, I enjoyed that. And the way that the manifested, because the clay creatures were also quite unnerving as sort of fun and fantastical. They were also very scary, when they were all sort of smudged and so I found it fun that they sort of had their own world aside from the real world.
I liked how they used it to escape, to revel in each other, their friendship, their relationship, but also when really bad stuff happened to either of them individually, they used it as an escape as well. That definitely becomes a motif in this film. Yeah. Okay. Now, Barovnia, it is the setting of the adventure novels they write together, which they do constantly. They write constantly together, and pretty much to the annoyance, the grievance of whatever adult groups that are around. Yeah, they just keep at it, certainly as the film progresses.
Even to the point, I don't know whether we're at that point yet, but it might be later in the film, where they're tasked by their teacher to do a book report or a report on the royal family, and the teacher doesn't specify the English royal family, so they do their report on the royal family of Barovnia. Yeah. Which I found really interesting. As someone that got tasked to do a book report for Razorback and then basically did a review of the movie, I can see where they're kind of coming from.
Nice. You can see why Pauline likes the fourth world, because it's far more, there's more of a sense of family, yes, but there is the poor girl wanting to get off the tracks, yes, to up her station in life as well. Juliet, why does she go to the fourth world? I have an idea, but I want to hear what you two think. I'll say mine first then.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's neglect from her family. And they also send her place to place. She creates her own place set in not stone, set in clay. Touchstone, yes. Yeah, this is where she can actually feel at home. Yeah? Yeah, for Juliet, definitely. Okay. Now, eventually they want to go to Hollywood, yes, because there is the threat of separation that comes in as well. So this is actually their escape world away from the adults as well. Yes, it becomes the real world to them, their Wikipedia. Exactly. to heaven without Christians.
Yeah, I love
specified.
that line.
Yeah. Yeah. So what has happened up until this point? Yes, because we're getting into Christianity and we're getting into the adults seeing their friendship as strange, weird, problematic, obscene behavior, homosexuality.
Yeah, that shot of the mouth.
The teeth.
He sort of like stutters on it. Yeah.
If there would have been TikTok memes, etc., back when this movie came out, that would have been the real this moment. Absolutely. Yes. And so the fourth world is a place without Christians, because I think if I've got it right, going on in tandem at this point, the girls are getting closer, the adults are getting worried, even though there is a boarder who comes along and manipulates, I think this is a good time to bring this up, manipulates Pauline, who is 14 years old. The boarder fucks an adult, and he's cold one night and comes into the bed-stuy to marry a book and manipulates his way into bed with Pauline, then has a go. Yeah. And then the adult's reaction to this. Who wants to go first?
Well, this is where the film lost me. Not that I don't think it's like an inaccurate representation. I just think it's like, and I get that they were trying to sort of like build a point of comparison between like her relationship and like the safety she feels with Juliet versus like the real world and what the real world has to offer Pauline and like her naivety, I guess. But I was like, I just feel like and I guess it adds another element of tragedy, another reason for escape. But I was just like, why? Why? Again, just a me thing. It's just something I'm just like, been there, done that. Like, don't want to see it. I get it's the 50s. I also I get the parents are, like I said, this traditional family. It in the 50s, it absolutely would have reflected poorly on them if it was found out in the community that their daughter was sleeping with their boarder and stuff. And not to say I think their actions were correct in the way they treated her, but just for the time, it all added up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was just sort of like, we already have an inappropriate relationship that they look poorly on with Juliet and Pauline. I was like, it just feels like it was just like an extra thing that I was like, okay, another subplot that is just sort of become superfluous in the end, because he just he rides his little bike and then he's never seen again. And I guess I do get it as a point of comparison between her relationship with Juliet, but it was just like, why are we doing this? It's just like, as soon as it happened, I was like, okay, I'm bored. I just want to get to I want to know about the relationship between the girls and how this gets to the point that we saw at the start of the film. And it just felt like another really boring obstacle on the path to getting to the end of the film for me.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Baron?
I felt that it was shoehorned in. We didn't need to see the relationship with the lodger, and so much so that I remember thinking later on where the mother's complaining about her spending too much time with Juliet, and it's like, I wish she'd be interested in boys. And it's like, well, you literally shooed one away. I get that he was an adult and she was a 14-year-old, but she had that interest and you stomped on it and literally forced her into Juliet's arm.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the superfluous nature of its Scream Queen is what I had issue with as well. I get it, it's the 1950s. This sort of thing would happen, yes, but that's the societal view of the event. Really should have focused on how that affected Pauline more, and then that would have leaned in stronger to the relationship with Juliet as well.
Exactly. And I think I think, it's one of the more interesting, using Borovnia as an escape during the scene where she's raped was it was very gut wrenching. And I thought that it was a really interesting use of that escape world. It was just obviously very hard to watch. But I guess, talking about the superfluous nature of adding it in, I would assume it was just written in her diary. Because she does narrate that part, I assume it is just something that they found in her diary, that they found added to to the story that they wanted to include.
I think
it's something that happened, but
yeah, I think the intent maybe was to show how effed up it is that they're worried about these two girls being lesbian than a 14-year-old being raped by an adult. That was more of the concern in the 1950s that will make the family look bad compared to what has it done to this 14-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Got the feeling. And I get that. I think it would have been more interesting to go a few there, Scream Queen, to just develop that a bit more through Barovnia and through the relationship with Juliet. It would have added to the ending even more and might have taken away from the second act meandering as well some more, as I do think it's a flaw of the film. Just in the way it was handled, just in the way it was treated, definitely. It's in her diaries. It happened to her. It led to the psychotic break. Put it in, but you've got to think about how you're going to treat it, even in 1994. Yeah, even in 1994, absolutely. Okay, all right. Yes, so that went off from the Heaven Without Christians. Music and art is celebrated. Yes, it's a Dionysian, if I may. Yeah, it is Dionysian at this stage. Juliet believes she will go there when she dies. Now, during a date trip to Port Levy, okay, before we get there, there's the threat of the threat of them being separated that has been put on to the girls as well, because Juliet has her tuberculosis has resurfaced. Yes, because she has the coughing scene when she's being a brat, a troll in the classroom, and then the coughing, which was seen to be a disturbance, just an act, is real. Pauline sees the blood spatter on the page, and then there's the threat of the separation, and obviously the girls do not handle it well. And that's when Juliet's in hospital that Pauline tells her about Border. Juliet does not like this. She is jealous, and then let out of hospital, and then they're going to be separated. She is let out of hospital and they come back together. I think it's 2 weeks. They have 2 weeks together before Juliet is sent to South Africa. No, she's not going with Daddy back to England. She needs a warm climate. Again, it's the parents getting rid of her. That's Juliet's pain. That's her trauma in this. Pauline, she's got no real support, no real love for the family because they're not really focusing on the fact that she is being raped. They're taking her only escape away from her in the world, and they're sending it to South Africa. In 1950s, South Africa may as well have been Mars for a 14-year-old girl. And may as well have been Mars. So, how did you think they treated the sex scene between the two?
I thought it was very, tasteful, for lack of a better word. I thought it was, very sweet. And I guess after what she has been through, and it was, again, they're teenage girls, they don't, they've the way that it's framed is, this is how the saints from this made-up world
go through all the saints
that they have created together would make love with someone. I thought that was just very, sweet, and, they, really care about each other. And there's, it was a very beautiful moment, especially, like I said, considering what has happened for Pauline. I found it, just a very, tender moment, and I was just okay, this is nice. I wish the last 40 minutes had been cut before this, and we just got back into their relationship.
Right. Okay, we'll put a pin on that. But Baron, first sex scene, I thought it was treated. I agree, Scream Queen. It was treated very tastefully. It wasn't like a horny scene. Finally, we can get together or anything like that. It was through their imaginations, through the fantasy world they had created. They had discovered another layer, another aspect of joy to their relationship. And it was shown as such. I mean, there was a kiss that was about pretty much as physically sexual as it got. The rest was just through the lighting, the pacing, the music, the narration, focusing on Juliet's face when she comes up and there's that smile, that glow to her, all of that sort of thing. I thought it was treated way more tastefully and gracefully than the rape scene was. That's for goddamn sure. Having
said that, though, they dealt with the sexual assault.
Yeah, assailant, yeah.
As tastefully as they could.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't say that it was mismanaged per se. I just I'm not interested in seeing that in a film at all. But I think it wasn't necessarily poorly done. It was just unfortunate.
I think the actual scene itself was done fine. I think it was just the ramifications of it handled poorly. That's what
parents' reactions. Yes.
But the way they shot it didn't limit the emotional effect of the scene.
Yeah.
It became probably even more emotionally damaging because you're not seeing them both in the same frame, which is fine. Didn't want to see it anyway. But so there's that distance. So she's disassociating. So we're seeing her disassociating, going into the fourth world, seeing the clay figures, occasionally coming back and seeing his face. We're just seeing his face. We're not seeing any sexual organs. There's no forced nudity. This was, and this is going to be the clip they cut out and it's going to cancel me. This is probably the most gentle sexual assault scene I've seen in a film. As in, I don't mean the sexual assault itself was gentle. I mean the way the admin of the sexual assault scene done by the filmmakers gave us the experience of the horror of it, but it was not horrific in and of itself in the real world. In the film, totally horrific. Jed Brophy should get an Oscar for that performance. Glad they didn't show them together. Obviously a sexual scene. They didn't sexualize it. There was no male gaze. There was no female gaze. It was like they were filming a fight scene. And it was
well handled by the directors and the creatives. Yes.
Yeah. I could have done without the whole Jed Brophy subplot. Sorry, Jed, if you're watching, I didn't need to see you in this film. I think they should have just stuck with Pauline and Juliet. Didn't need to see it, but from a perspective of someone that has been involved in making films, it was beautiful.
Yeah, no, I get you. Yes.
I'm trying to over-explain so no one can cancel me for this.
No, I get you. The actual scene itself in the sleep out, between the border.
Well, no. In his apartment above whatever store it was where she climbed in through the window.
Oh, that part. Sorry, I'm with you. Okay, that part. Yeah, where she's basically, tricked herself to falling in love with this guy, yes? Yeah. Okay, I'm with you. Yeah.
Her parents sort of push her towards him because she's I want to rebel against him for calling me a little tart.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty awful.
Yeah. And that does push her more into Juliet because the parents have just ignored it, and which has pushed her further towards him and further towards the psychotic break with Juliet. Yeah. I guess I kind of see why it's in there with that part as well. I don't know. Yeah. Because the parents are nice. The Parkers are nice, but they are neglectful in their own way, which so are the Humes. And that parallel is shown through the border, I guess. Scream Queen, please.
I was going to say there's a part in there where, so they've started writing to each other as these characters they've created. So Charles and Deborah, I believe, are the royals of Borovnia. And they've started writing each other while Juliet's in hospital. And this is when they start to get there's a character that is very murderous, or these characters are very murderous. So this is when their sort of tendencies towards wanting to kill everyone that displeases them.
Yeah.
Comes in.
And that's War of the Worlds, Citizen Kane, guy. The third place, the evil guy. Yes, the most hideous guy. Thank you. Yeah.
Orson Welles.
Yeah. And that's what they use as a transposition in the fourth world as well. They use Orson Welles, who has a Borovnian name, who kind of encapsulates the border and all of this as well. Yeah, is that fair?
Yeah.
I don't think he encapsulates the border because I think that she has a vision of him killing the border.
That's right. Splits
she's sort of he is sort of her hero. In Borovnia, he acts on her command. Because what I was going to say is I loved the scene where the clay Orson Welles, he attacks the priest that tries to approach Juliet in the hospital to be medicine won't save you, God will save you. And she imagines this priest getting murdered by this big clay man. And I thought that scene was very good.
Okay. Yeah. So the two obstacles are represented in the fourth world for both girls and are taken out, yes, through objects of their teenage lust. Pretty much, yeah.
It's like it's starting to bleed into the real world at this point. Like they are seeing these characters in like when the doctor is like, you have a mental disorder because you have this inappropriate relationship with your female friend or whatever. Like she imagines him killing, like stabbing his sword through the doctor's stomach. Like it becomes a very real like blood there.
Which was totally Candyman. Shout out, Dorian. That was totally from Candyman. Yeah, I checked it. Candyman came out 2 years later. Yeah, in the doctor's office, comes out straight up through the gut, then rises up. Yeah, exactly. Nice tribute. Yeah, so point being, then, yes, you have the lead up to Hume's break. Yes, that's all mapped out very well then. And then part of the mapping out of Parker's psychotic break is this border, yes, which they do take their fantastical revenge out in the fourth world, both girls. Yeah, you say it's boring, but it fits the 1950s, and you say that it was treated very well in terms of a production, filming, on set, treatment of actors, etc. There, Baron. Yeah,
even like before there were like intimacy coordinators and stuff. Like they dealt with this really well. It could have been super easy for this to have been grotty. And it wasn't. It was not grotty.
1994, gorgeous. Yeah.
And these are young actors as well. Like
so, then was it treated well for Parker's character's development? I think then, because that seems to be the intention. Oh, this is the final question I'll ask. Was it then used well? Was it utilized well, or should it not have been there at all? Did we have enough?
I don't even think that it's like, I don't think it destroys the narrative having it in there. Like I understand why it is included. I just think for my interest's sake that this, as well as a huge chunk of subplots like the infidelity and and the like even the doctor and being involved like with that sort of stuff. Like I just think like it just really dragged. Like it really slowed the plot down. It felt like it was accelerating. It just felt like it was accelerating to this very clear point, and it felt like we only got there 20 minutes before the film ended because there was just a bunch of distraction in the middle. Not even that it was poorly done, it just was boring. Like
I agree.
I agree. There was so much going on. I was like, what story are you trying to tell right now? Because it doesn't feel like the story of this true crime. It feels like you want to do like a vignette on every single character in this film, and I'm not interested in every single character in this film. I'm just interested in this one narrative that you established at the beginning. When are we going to return to that? So that's my issue with it.
It's pacing.
Yes, pacing. It's poorly paced. I just wish I could cross these scenes out. Yeah.
Okay, final word from you, Scream Queen, is pacing. Baron?
I understand why they included the subplot with the border, but I think it could very easily have been lost out of the film. We still would have had the same relationships, and I think it would be one less complication. The film's very complicated in the same way that like everyone seems to think of that little vignette. It added a complication. So the two subplots I would lose out of this film is number one, the border, Jed Brophy's character, and probably the philandering wife of Juliet's mum.
Bill.
Extramarital
subplot. Yeah, that's subplot with Bill. That need to be there.
Yeah.
So I know I'm going into it with this point, but this really determines the rating of the film. Yeah.
Yeah.
The subplot with Bill. Yeah, and the wife didn't need to be there as much as it was. We got that the dad, he showed it perfectly from the get-go that I don't want to be here. I'm completely detached, and I am acting detached, forcing myself to be detached so I don't break down into tears and don't stop, which eventually does happen, of course, because he finds out with Bill that wife's getting with Bill. Yeah, that is shown to happen. Juliet sees it even happening. Yeah, I get it. Didn't have to be as long. I think I'm with you, Scream Queen. It's the pacing factor again.
It's like even there were bits in those moments that I liked. Like I love the part where, because it does, like I can justify it for Juliet's arc. She believes that her parents are like this beacon of romance and love, and they are like, she is such a romantic at heart, and then to have that broken before her eyes is like very like a huge, I guess, like awful milestone for her. But and like the part where she imagines him being brought into the house on a stretcher, but he's actually just in his nice car and he's walking and he's fine. Like it's funny and it's the tonally lines up. It's just like boring, slow.
Yeah. And I guess we need to think about where these girls are growing up in as well. They're growing up in a post-World War II world in the 50s where the economy is starting to boom back and there's nothing but a romanticization of war and war heroes as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was the pop culture fantasy landscape for the 1950s teenagers. The birth of teenagers full stop as well. This is, the landscape and the cultural landscape that they're playing as well. Yeah. Because this is all building up towards, it was the end, the final act, Justified as well. This is what these questions are building up to the big final question. So let's get there. They take a day trip to Port Levy. It's on, you see the hills in the background there of Scream Queen. That's where basically you drove up to have a look down on the hills. Roving plains, yes, as you can see. Giant hills, giant pastoral fields that look like they've all been cut freshly by a gigantic lawnmower. Those are the Canterbury Plains. It takes 20 minutes to half an hour to bus up to where they are from Christchurch Central. Yeah, that's really how small this place is, just to put that into our perspective as well. Now, Juliet's parents announce their plan to go on a trip together, leaving Juliet by herself, South Africa. We've done that. Hysterical at the prospect of being left alone. Okay, Juliet's parents announce their intention to divorce and leave Christchurch, with Juliet to stay with a relative in South Africa. They get very distraught. They spend the last 3 weeks together. I thought it was 2, doesn't matter, at Juliet's house. Now, at the end of that time, Pauline returns home and the two finalize plans for the murder.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? Yeah.
She's like, I'm going to kill my mom.
Yeah.
She decides that, I think at the start of the 3 weeks, she goes and she's like, this is a plan that I have.
And this is where they first have sex for the first time as well, yes? And then there's sex and then the plan for murder.
Yeah, they had 3 weeks to come up with a plan and the best they could do is a brick in a sock.
Yes.
I mean, it was effective, was it not?
True.
Oh, yeah.
True.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
But this is where the tension starts to get really good.
Yes.
About half an hour towards the end.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Also, I love that.
Third act is a banger.
Yeah.
Pardon? Yeah, it's
Third
good.
act is a banger.
I love that she keeps calling it a moida. Is that like a 1950s thing? But she calls it a moida.
It's
because they'd have been watching all those like the film noir New York.
Man, you dirty rats! Yeah, you dirty rat.
Man,
Murder.
Yeah, I was just like, is that why? So I
very
guess
New Jersey, very New Jersey.
Moida. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. I liked that as well. Okay, Honora plans a trip for the three of them to Victoria Park. So that's where we are now. After having tea at the cafe, go on, Mum, have the last piece of cake, whatever it was. Treat yourself.
Treat yourself.
Heartbreaking. This is the thing. This is where, and I think this is where like the direction comes in, is that their like fourth world or whatever is sort of completely, is like shattered at this point where you're not seeing it through the eyes of these delusional girls. You're actually just seeing things for what they are. And the things for what they are is that she's a good mother trying her best. And these girls need some help. And, you know, she's making, she's like, let me, you know, get into something a little bit more, you know, presentable. And like, she's doing the motherly thing and she's being very generous to her friends despite her concerns about like her daughter. And, you know, she says she likes her outfit and and you're just seeing this woman, just this pretty normal woman. And it's heartbreaking. Like it really is.
Yeah, it is. Definitely. Because the Humes are the ones sending people to hospital to talk to doctors about their strange new disease that has occurred, yes, that the two girls now share.
Yeah.
Honor is definitely distressed and confused and whatnot, but she's not sending them to psychologists at this time. Yeah. So she is just trying to understand. It's Mr. Hume that does the main instigating of these two people are devils now. They've become possessed by the devil. Yeah, which is pretty much what they're saying. Yeah, it's pretty much what they're saying. They've been possessed by the devil at this stage. We've got to exorcise them. Certainly not Honora. So Honora takes the last cake, and after having the tea, the three walk on the now infamous path down a steep hillside. It's a lovely spot. It really is.
It is.
The view looks lovely.
Oh, yeah, it's great. Yeah, no, I've stood up on top of those hills for short films and all that sort of thing. It's amazing. When Honora bends over to pick up a pink pink charm. Now, remind me, that charm comes from the fourth world. That's what they're looking at behind Scream Queen there. Yeah, Baron, please, details?
Yeah. They are. So we see that in the ring that the character drops as the portcullis is dropped on him and he gets cut in half.
Yes.
So it's obviously based on a real piece of costume jewelry that the girls have access to.
Yes, and what we have there is we have their fantasy world physically, literally invading the real world now. Yeah, so lines are merging. Yes, lines are crossing. Because poor old Honora bends over to pick up the pink charm. Now it's deliberately dropped. You see the setup clear as day. Juliet and Pauline. Pauline hits first. Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't think she kills her mother. I think Juliet is the one that finishes her off.
Yeah, but Pauline strikes first, so it's a shared job. Yep. Yeah. Okay, just to get that correct as we get to our decision. Broken piece of brick in an old stocking. I don't have the actual numbers here for how many times she was hit. It was something like around 30 plus or even 50 plus times. Yeah.
It's brutal.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's intercut with them, one of them's on the boat. They're being separated from each other.
This is the textual epilogue. Please, Scream Queen, take it away, yeah? Because you like this bit. This is where you started.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, now I'm going to forget everything. Yeah, so they're, murdering her mother, and then we get this sort of the rose-coloured imagery that's been sort of throughout the film, but instead of being on the boat together, we have Pauline at the dock calling out
black and white like the start, yeah.
Calling out to Juliet, who is being taken away on her boat with her parents. And presumably this is when the girls were found out. It's sort of a metaphorical representation of the way that, despite everything, this didn't mean that the girls could stay together.
And
it was
they were caught straight away, by the way.
Because she wrote it all in her diary, which just sort of
covered in blood, running back up, screaming to the cafe.
Yeah, which is just sort of it just sort of shows how delusional they really were. And I watched it with my dad, and he was sort of looking it up afterwards because we didn't know of this murder that happened. And it took Pauline years to realize what she had actually done. She was so young when it happened, 14, and so sort of
14.
Yeah. And they didn't serve a lot of time. I mean, they were so young. They were charged, but
5 years.
And then Juliet moved to England.
Yes, name changes straight away.
Name change. She's a I believe a detective fiction.
Fiction. Crime. That's Juliet.
Yes, and Pauline Parker, I believe, is a teacher of some kind.
Is she? Okay,
I don't
heard
know.
Incognito entirely since then.
I think the thing is she feels a lot of remorse, and she's sort of paying her dues by staying as far out of people's way as she possibly can.
Out of people's way. Yeah. Juliet, it took 20 years for her to say anything, I think.
Yeah.
If I have, that's from Peter. Yeah.
But I think I think her name is Anne.
Anne Barry.
Yeah, Anne Perry. She passed away last year, I think. But I think Pauline Parker is still alive.
Yeah. And that epilogue is great. It's just like we have at the start, the black and white on the dock, calling out very Borovnian style. I just picked up at the end. All their physical, melodramatic gestures, are still very Borovnian at this point as well, because it's focusing on the separation. They are being separated from each other. But now we know as viewers that they're being separated from each other in reality forever, because that was the main ruling by the judge. Never see each other again. Because of the, if I may, the heavenly creatures syndrome shared between these two, because they're not, Pauline, was sexually assaulted when she was 14. Absolutely. Juliet was taken from place to place. She was not cared about. She was basically an ornamentation for the mantelpiece of this rich home. Was it justified? I'm laughing at the question. Killing Honora 30 plus, 50 plus times with a brick because they were being separated. Was it justified at all? Take it away, whoever wants to start. I'll finish off. I know, but it has to be asked with this film.
It's a lot.
Mm.
And the fact that it's based on a real thing adds that layer of, oh my God, to it. We are also seeing it through the literal lens of Peter Jackson. And no doubt there are differences, but there's enough of the original story in this that when you get to the end and you see like the this is what happened to this person, this is what happened to this person, it really comes home that like this is a true horror story. It's not necessarily a horror movie, but it's a true horror story.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think it's justified at all, but it's at the point where, you know, they were so like something was going on like mentally, but like it's not like they were, and I don't think that the sanity plea actually didn't go through. They were charged. Yeah. But I can't believe that they would have been of sound mind like to do so. Or I guess there's such an anger within them that it was justifiable behavior to them, but I don't think it's justifiable at all. I think it's tragic. Even though we see the movie like through the eyes of the girls for the whole thing, I just like when that shift happens and you're like, the scone, I just think the scone is really heartbreaking because she's like, you know, I want to keep an eye on my figure, and her daughter's basically saying, well, you don't need to worry about that anymore because I'm going to kill you. Like it's awful. Yeah, it's just tragic. And it like, the last 20 minutes of that film, like I was just like wincing. Like I was so just like, oh, because you just know that's happening. And they're just like leading her into this trap. And she's just, you know, she's just a mom, like, you know, very sad. And who knows if she was that sort of sympathetic, like in real life, like we don't know.
We don't know that either. We don't know that the others were actually.
But again, this is how Peter Jackson chose to tell that story. And it was affecting in that way. Yeah.
This is how, Peter and Fran decided to convey this story. And and I think when the psychotic break happens, we do have the image of Juliet covered in blood, screaming just out of pure terror at this stage. And when they run back up the hill, something's happened to mummy, something's happened to mummy. Yeah, and they're shown to be out of their minds there. They've broke character. They have definitely broke character by this stage. They are in a state of psychosis, both of them from both class perspectives, if you will. Yeah, so you definitely see how they were connected to each other, and the separation is what caused the psychotic break. Now, the separation, society could have done a lot more. I think what this film is saying during the 1950s, mental health services for young people in general, that sort of thing, they were basically non-existent, and if it wasn't prison or going away to a mental asylum, an institution, which they would have got with the insanity plea, Peter mentions this could have potentially been far, far worse in the 1950s. I know a little bit about that from the 90s, and I've looked into the 1950s. There's a good movie by Janet Frame called An Angel at My Table. That's the author, Janet Frame, who was in mental asylums in the 1950s, and the electric shock therapy that was, put on her and all that sort of thing goes into it really well. So it could have been far worse for them. Point being, no, this act was completely horrific though, But I think what Peter and Fran are trying to say is that these kids needed help. Society didn't provide that, So I'm not going to judge two young teenage girls from the 1950s, but I am going to look back at the act with shock and horror though. Absolutely. I think that's the best way I can put it. Okay, so, and then at the end, there's a whole bunch of credits of factual information about what happened to these girls afterwards. And that's pretty much the end of the film.
Yeah. Check it out, children. There's a lot of information available on Wikipedia and other websites. I did find it interesting. I had a little bit of a look. I did find it interesting that one of the things that's linked to it, or linked to the situation, is also the Slender Man killing. The two girls who in 24, Anissa and Morgan lured their friend Peyton into a wooded area of a local park and stabbed her 19 times to appease the fictional character of Slender Man. Very similar to the Fourth World stuff.
That's interesting. because I was trying to link it into today's terms as well. We have murders on TikTok now. Yeah, that literally happens. Yeah. But this is a natural born killers. Yeah, that's actually detracting from what this is. That's another kettle of fish entirely. Yeah, but look into it. We've only scratched the surface. Seriously, we've only really scratched the surface. But it is, Christchurch and New Zealand's big true crime case to this day. Definitely, there's another couple of things that happened over time. We ain't you, Australia. It's not a competition. But yeah, this is the big one. So what do we reckon, people? Who wants to go through it first? Heavenly Creatures through 2024 eyes in terms of a rating. Overall thoughts, now we're at the end, and a rating. Whoever wants to.
I'll go first. Look, I think I was expecting something more sensational when I first saw it back in the 90s. So it wasn't on the top of my list of favourite films. Consequently, I haven't watched it in the intervening 30 years.
30 years now, yes. Thank you. Yeah, 30 years.
So I haven't watched it in the intervening 30 years. Having watched it again now just recently this week, I think I enjoyed it more than when I saw it at the cinema. It could have been more tightly edited. There were some subplots that needed to be removed. I think I'm going to give this a 3.5. It's not quite delicious for me. If you'd asked younger me who'd just seen it at the cinema, it probably would have been a 2, only because there wasn't enough death in it or nudity, but that was the 90s. I'm going to give that a 3.5.
Nice. Scream Queen, what say you?
I think that the production is very good. The cinematography was a standout. The color grading was great. The eye of this film was really beautiful. It was handled really delicately, like compared to a lot of like other true crime stuff that I've seen.
Ryan Murphy.
Yeah. So I thought it was like, I was really surprised by that.
Good point.
And I thought it was a really interesting story. I just think I got really bored, like an hour into the film, and I had an hour to go. So that really put a damper on my experience. They did bring me back at the end, but barely. I think I was like, this would have been good if I didn't have to endure the last 40 minutes to get it. I think it's too good to give it like a 2.5, so I'm going to give it a satisfying 3.
Okay.
Just based on my experience, yeah.
Just for solidarity, though, Scream Queen, at about that point, I did get up and make myself a sandwich.
Good. It was prime sandwich making time, about an hour into the
During that point, I've got 2 monitors here. Yes, I have stuff on one, movie on the other. So I'm looking here at the movie monitor. During the meandering of the second act, so hard not to suddenly start tapping away and looking at the other tabs. So, no.
That's exactly what I was doing. Which is funny because my dad was very engrossed in the film. Like he like really liked it.
Shout out, Daddy Scream Queen. Shout out, Father Scream Queen. I'm not going to use the term Daddy ever. I hate that term. Sorry,
but he really loved it. He was like researching what actually happened and the cast and yada yada. And he was just like, oh, what about this? And I was like, I'm not watching. I was, but I was like, I'm sorry, I'm not paying attention to what just happened. So that's sort of how I felt. But it's good.
FSQ, Father Scream Queen. If you ever want to choose a true crime, come on, tell us about it. True crime movie.
He's a big My Favorite Murder.
Okay. Is he your last podcast? Last podcast on the left, man? Father Scream Queen. Check it out if you do not. If you're into true crime, and if you like us, I think you'll like them. Yeah, check it out.
Mr. Popcorn.
Yeah.
Just a question from a sociological perspective. Did this have a big sociological effect in New Zealand at the time that reached into the future from it? Like in Australia, we had back in 1966, there was the Beaumont children went missing on like a Victorian beach, and it created this whole culture of like stranger danger and all that sort of stuff. So something that you were aware of as a child growing up in New Zealand.
Good question. Yeah, really good question. When how old was I when this came out? I was 13 in 1990, so yes, 17. Okay, I saw it later on, so I heard about its effect later on. I think there was shock that this had actually happened. A lot of people didn't know about it. So I guess, was there a stranger danger? Protect your teenagers, especially, female teenagers, etc. I would say not really. Yeah. And that's the fault of New Zealand, because in terms of the institutionalize, the infrastructure for these institutions and the care that they showed that that was put in place, the things in government put in place to look after the people in need, through these institutions. No, terrible. Pretty much should have been still the 1950s to recent times, worse than Australia, I will say. So largely it was like, oh, did that actually happen? Oh, that's odd. Moving on. Yeah, I'm sad to say. I don't want to put it that way, but that's pretty much the reality of it. Yeah. Thing with the bottom of the world. Yeah. Living in a place at the bottom of the world. You are free from a lot of the chaos of the rest of the world, but you're also free from a lot of the necessary developments of the rest of the world. It takes time to catch up, even longer than Australia. 10 years plus on from where Australia takes to catch up with the rest of the world. So in that case, the movie they're now thinking about, this movie does capture that how left alone to their own devices and to deal with this trauma that these two girls had to deal with. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's
what would you rate the film?
Okay.
What would you rate the film?
Yeah. Pacing's an issue. The things that created this issue that were in the film needed to be there, and they were treated well, but it took too long to really flesh these things out, and basically the flesh had already been drawn out before they finished. Yeah. So the pace was definitely affected. The way that the case was treated in terms of looking through the eyes of the two girls, the adult world and Borovnia, yes, treated well. I mean, still very effective, I think, to this day. But the pacing issue through 2024 eyes is an issue. But I think that's because when the film came out. So does it stand up to today? Not anywhere near a 4 or 5. So it's really, what do I put it? How satisfying is it? Yeah. The nostalgia was just nostalgia. That was just by default. It wasn't pleasurable nostalgia. It was just default. So that's really not going to affect my rating. The pacing affects the rating, but the capturing of 1950s and the performances of the two girls is what will bump it up to a 3.5. Yeah, I will give it very satisfying because of those aspects, because I know the landscape that you're placing the setup in, for me. So that's why it will be a very satisfying. Would I watch? I'd recommend it, but it'll be a while before I watch this again, though.
Yeah. I'd agree.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the start of Kiwi Horror.
Where can people watch it?
People can watch it on YouTube, basically for free. Yeah, of course, always support if you can, buy physical media. But if you want to check this out, definitely check it out on YouTube. And it's a decent quality, and it's a decent copy. The quality is good. Yeah. Okay. So Kiwi Horror. Who's next? We don't have to do Kiwi Horror, but if you want to, that would be cool. I think Scream Queen, is it back to you, Baron?
No, because I did Killer Sofa, so it was Scream Queen.
Yeah, okay, cool. That makes sense. Do you have any ideas at this stage?
No, I
Would
don't.
you really like to join us? Because it might be around Christmas time, Scream Queen, that you're back. Is that fair to say?
That I'm back?
Yeah, I'm just helping out with suggestions that it's going to be around Christmas. Christmas is coming up.
Yes, it is.
Christmas horror.
Okay.
We've never done Gremlins. I'm just throwing it out.
I would love to do Gremlins because I love that movie. It's like one of my favorite.
Right.
I mean, let's do it.
All right. So let's say when you come back there, we're doing Gremlins. Definitely. I'm very happy and excited about that. I think the band.
Yeah, I do. Well. I love it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, just if something comes up, Baron, if I may, Peter Jackson, shall we do the trilogy? Shall we start with Bad Taste? We're going to do Kiwi Horror. This is where it began. That's where it began. Yeah. Okay, cool. So there you go, children. Before we see us again, in terms of Kiwi Horror, and watch both of those films.
We do them
in order.
We do them in order.
Yes. Just to get up to Brain Dead. Yeah. Which is just the Barkic celebration of gore. Yeah. Absolutely.
If people are also have an Apple subscription, you can watch Heavenly Creatures on Apple. That's where I watched it.
Okay, cool. Excellent. Does anyone want to bring up anything else?
That's it from me.
No, it's all good.
I think I've talked enough about how bored I was during this film for the rest of
But there is more horror New Zealand films, but this one I wanted to read. So thank you for, indulging me. And I wanted to retouch on this one as well, because it's Peter Jackson. We'll get to his horror, but this movie's not known crazy well either as well. I'd like to do The Lovely Bones as well at some point as well, because that film's not talked about enough, because people pretty much know this guy for the original horror trilogy, Hello Poppy, and Lord of the Rings. Yeah, he's done other stuff as well, so that's why I wanted to bring this in. Yeah.
No, I think it was a good pick. I'm glad that I watched it because it was definitely on my list.
Yeah, and you get to see where Winslet and Lynskey both started. Yeah, their first big roles. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we'll get into more Kiwi horror, and we have Christmas coming up. Of course, we'll revisit Terrifier. And either of you can think of Christmas horror films. I've never seen The Silent Night, Deadly Nights, Baron. I have to see them. Sorry, children. I have to see them. They're on the list, definitely. The Phone movie, the original one, not Black Phone, Black Christmas. Need to see that as well.
Have you not seen it?
Nah, I know. It's shocking, shameful. But that's an OG slasher there, Scream Queen that was early 70s. That wasn't quite the 60s. It was just past the 60s by that stage, yeah? Yeah. So that needs to be checked out.
If people haven't seen it, I've just watched It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh, yeah? How was it?
I really enjoyed it. Like, if you've watched It's a Wonderful Life, you kind of get what the plot is, but it's basically a wonderful life, but with a slasher in it. And what would happen if one particular person didn't exist, what would happen with that slasher? And yeah, it's I'd really suggest it. If you're a fan of the Hallmark films, it has all of those sort of little fingerprints on it as well. So I'd definitely suggest it.
Okay, yeah, and children of the popcorn, if you can think of any more Christmas horror you would like us to cover or just touch on, absolutely let us know at Evil Popcorn Pod, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. What are the other strange things? No shade, Baron, but what are the other strange platforms you've set us up on?
Blue Sky,
okay,
Facebook,
Threads,
LinkedIn. Threads.
Yeah, we're not on. What are they? Trump's shit. Never will be.
Truth Social. No.
Yeah, there's something. Rock something. I don't give a fuck. I'm just vamping.
Yeah. To be honest, folks, 30 Days of Night, the vampire film, technically a Christmas film.
Yeah, I touched on The Lodge last time. Technically a Christmas film.
Misery.
Yeah. It's the whole debate, you know. It's the whole debate. What's the fucking Bruce Willis movie all you people like?
Die Hard.
Yeah. Is that a Christmas movie, you know?
Look, it happens at Christmas as far as I'll go with that debate. Gremlins, yes. Gremlins is a good Christmas movie.
Absolutely.
It is a great Christmas movie.
The Christmas. Oh, yeah, it still is. Terrifier 3 is just behind it, but it's Gremlins. It's fucking Gremlins, yeah. I don't think that it can be topped. If you think it can, let us know, children, at Evil Popcorn Pod. That's all I have to say. Anyone else?
Look, I will always plug Improv Queensland. I will always plug Act React, plug IFWG Publishing. More news for that book when it comes out. Evil Corp, Escape Manor.
Yep. Come and see us. Check out the website or the socials for Evil Corp. They've got a few things going on in December, but the main thing is New Year's Eve. Yeah, there's going to be a big New Year's Eve night show. So if you've got nothing to do and you want to come along and see something a bit gothy, enjoy something a bit gothy and industrially dark techno-y, which is pretty much Evil Corp's music thing. Shout out 1334 if you want to go there for more traditional 80s stuff. Both can exist peacefully. Go to both on the same night even. Yeah, and that's what we're doing for Evil Corp. Check us out for New Year's Eve. And yeah, we'll be certainly around for 2025. Horror's been crazy for 2024. Thank you, world. It's been great. Absolutely. I'm going to see Heretic before it disappears. If either of you two see it, let me know. If you don't, I'll do audio only solo dolo. Yeah, hand solo review for it. We will cover it as that is the last one that's coming out for the year. Nosferatu, apparently it's amazing. Every frame is evil as in 5 out of 5. Spooky Astronauts has done a whole thing there. Scream Queen dressed up as the movie. They absolutely love it. Everyone's raving about it. That hits here January the 1st. That's the first horror movie we get for the New Year's. Yes. And then we get, I think it's called Monkey, Osgood Perkins. Yeah. The Stephen King short turned into a feature. Can't wait for that. 2025, let the horror continue. Happy holidays, children of the pop. We're still here a year later. Thank you to you both. And Dorian and the Bat, we are still here. Thank you for the follows. Thank you for the watches. Yeah. We need more though. We're doing well the first 2 or 3 days and then it stops. Tell your friends, force your friends, tie them down to the chairs, press play, make them watch.
Steal their phones and download the podcast on their
kidnap them. Yes. Endorse that.
Absolutely.
But ethically kidnap them.
Yeah. And we've got some interviews. Christian Fletcher's coming on to talk about Beyond Valley of the Dolls. We'll have more interviews from short film creators coming up. They just need to have their short films to do the festival circuit before they can even say their names again. There's that whole thing, but that is, coming up soon. And of course, projects for yourselves. Eventually, Chancellor Anderson, shout out, myself and Gina there are in a short film made here. We'll be able to talk about at some point soon and that sort of thing. So local stuff. Yes. Nice. Local stuff, indie stuff, as well as the classics and the iconics. Yeah, I'll start. Gute Nacht, children. This has been Mr. Popcorn. Baron, what say you?
Go to bed, children. Go to bed.
Yes, and since it's Heavenly Creatures, a lesbian movie, as said on YouTube.
Yeah.
What?
I was like, that seems like an oversimplification of the events of this film.
Don't call it that. That's dumb.
It's a queer film, Mr. Popcorn.
Yes, it's a queer film. It is a true crime film, psychological fantasy drama, whatever you want to call it. It's not just a lesbian film. What? And I had to throw that in. Scream Queen, finish us off, please.
Hello, I have been Scream Queen. This has been Heavenly Creatures. Happy horror days, and to all a good night, even though it's in the middle of the afternoon right now.
Oh, I love it when you're evil. This is me at my most evil. Do your evil laugh.